Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. And begins!
Yay!
Unification Part 3. Unification, you and me. If you're a Vulcan or a Romulan, unification. Let's flee. Okay.
I didn't know you were going to do that.
Neither did I.
Oh, there you go. What a treat.
What a treat. The unification anthem for Navarre. Hello, all.
Hello, all. Happy post-Thanksgiving, and what a great deal we have to be thankful for with this new episode of Star Trek Discovery.
Yes, the pieces are starting to come together, James Mason says. Yes.
You enjoy your James Mason.
My James Mason, whenever things are starting to... My machinations are working out. Well, I think this is exciting. Welcome to Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. And today we're discussing episode 7 of season 3, and things are getting very Discovery-y now. Mm-hmm. A lot of revelations going down, or not quite revelations yet, but they're setting us up. I think they're setting us up for a big old slap,
reveal,
big old slap in the face. I know that right before we started this, I said I was gonna have tinfoil time, but just talking about it, I just came up with 4 weird theories.
Excited. You just get so excited.
I look at my notes and I go, but what if?
But you just said earlier before we came on, you said, well, I feel like they've just given us so much. How can I talk about tinfoil time?
I was like, there's no real secrets in this one. Things are revealed. But now that I sit here, I'm like, but what about?
In the hot seat, as it were.
That's right. It's my job to come up with baseless theories about what the end game for this season is. And I'll be damned if I'm going to not do that. Okay, so before we do a rundown, any thoughts about the episode other than that it was wonderful? Really
yes,
fun.
It was wonderful. So much fun. So many threads coming together. Star Trek's, I was going to say past and present, but, well, yes, past and present. I could have said future, but that's what yes, past and present.
Yes.
Wonderful.
The present.
The present is a gift.
The present is a gift. Also, I enjoyed the courtroom drama of this Vulcan Romulan ritual. I was like, yes, we're going to have arguments today.
And of course, the reunification, the reuniting of Burnham and her mother.
Yes.
By the way,
alert.
Lots of spoilers.
Alert.
So if you haven't seen the episode,
stop
stop watching right now.
Immediately
and go and watch
cease watching or listening to this and watch the episode. Otherwise, you will be crestfallen. Yeah. Once again, the writers of Discovery have chosen a name that has more than one meaning. Yes, Michael and her mother. We should say this for the end. Why am I doing the analysis at the beginning?
Yeah. Should we hit?
Let's write it down.
Oh, wait, what? You haven't done your star date yet? Do you do that? You do normally
Oh, yes,
do that
I
before.
do.
Do your star date.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
I take the fun away from you.
I'm so sorry. To Stardate 31127.8, and we are discussing Season 3, Episode 7 of Star Trek Discovery, entitled Unification III. It's time to run it down. Can you run it down for me? What just happened? Can you run it down for me? I would love to tell you what just happened. Yes.
Do it. Let's go there.
We begin this episode with a Michael voiceover. As you may recall, she was demoted at the end of the last episode for her insubordination, going to the planet of Hunhao to get information about the burn, but also really to check up on her Love a Man book. So there was a lot of stuff. Anyway, she didn't follow orders. She got demoted. She's now just chief science officer, and Saru is without a first officer, without a number one. And Michael's feeling like she doesn't fit in with Starfleet. It's really coming to a head. And as she's coming to these feelings that maybe she can't rest until she finds out the reason for the burn, and that maybe she can't do that while in Starfleet. But one thing she can do is go down to the shuttle bay and go up on Book's ship, and they can get naked and get freaky. You want to hit him with the yeah.
I can't get enough of that. I love
they
that.
They really, yes. And
Yeah.
just that's how I feel about Book removing his shirt.
I know.
I can't get enough of that Booky stuff. I realize too that maybe I'm also extra into Book because his name is literally Book, and I love books. It's just a mixture of all the things that I love about a thing. So they get naked and freaky on Book's ship. And then in the pillow talk afterwards, Book's like, so when are we getting out of here? And Michael's like, what do you mean? And he's like, come on, I don't belong here. And it seems like maybe you don't belong here. And this is probably going to be temporary. And so they're kind of thinking about that. That's what they think about in their post-coitus euphoria. Snuggles. It's worth mentioning that once again I failed to complete my sexy Book song, but in my defense, his shirt doesn't come all the way off, so my inspiration did not reach peak levels.
You get some nipples. I think you get nipples.
It's not enough. Not
Sorry.
enough.
Right,
he
fine.
needs to just, in the first episodes, it was very conspicuous. It was like, oh, hey, I just had to remove my shirt and sit over here by this water, and let me heal you with my secret druid songs of the universe and rub this lotion on your wounds. Anyway, I'm sure there'll be more freaky between them. Later on, Michael approaches Tilly, and Tilly's a little upset that Michael put her and Saru in such a weird position with Starfleet, and Michael apologizes, but then they get right back down to business because now they're looking at the black boxes, and they discover that the 3 black boxes that they have, they are the time of the burn explosion, the dilithium exploding in the cores, is millionths of a second. Millionths of a second off. The USS Yelchin is 1/1,000,000th of a second ahead of the Gavnor. I don't know. And it's 7/1,000,000th of a second before the Giaccone, meaning that they could potentially triangulate the location from which the burn originated. However, in 3-dimensional space, 3 points is not really enough to triangulate a location. You would need several more.
Quadrangulate.
You in 3-dimensional space, you would need, I mean, at least 4, 5, I think maybe 6. It's thousands of light years across. Anyway, I mean, come on. But at the same time, Michael mentions that there was a Starfleet project in the works at the time of the burn called SB-19, which we later find out a little bit more about, but it's still a little confusing as to what it really was. But apparently there were sensors set up thousands of light years apart throughout Federation space that were meant to be monitoring Federation space. And they have no reports of what SB-19 recorded during the burn, meaning that the information is either they recorded nothing or the information has been withheld. So they bring this new information, Michael and Saru at the very least, to Admiral Vance. And Admiral Vance is like, well, this is amazing, but we don't have the SB-19 data. It belongs to the planet that was running the program, the planet called Navarre. But you would know it as dun dun dun.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have dun dun dun? The planet Vulcan.
Oh,
yeah. Yes. The Vulcans and Romulans have reunited, and it feels so good.
Unificated.
They have unificated. And it feels so good. And they have been living together on one planet, which they now have called Navarre. But they were the ones running the SB-19 program, and apparently they felt that Starfleet sort of pressured them, and maybe that the SB-19 was actually the cause of the burn. They believe it was their fault. Therefore, they shut down the program and will not share the information with Starfleet, and they have left the Federation, I think, 100 years prior to this moment. So, in order to get that information, Vance doesn't think scientific evidence is really going to shake it loose. However, the sister of Spock, who was the driving force behind the unification movement, which is a callback to TNG episodes, it would possibly shake some things loose, maybe get them to come around. So he's going to send Michael, even though she is freshly demoted, with Discovery down there to be a liaison, a diplomat, to try and negotiate the release of this information so they can hunt down the cause of the burn.
Burn!
Burn! In the meantime, as they're getting ready to depart, Saru asks Tilly to come into his ready room and offers her the position of number 1. Tilly, everybody.
Tilly time.
Tilly, don't be silly. Tilly, space is wide. Clearly it gets chilly. Tilly, it's your time.
But Tilly's unsure about taking the position. And Saru says, hey, think about it. But I really trust you. I think you would put the ship and Starfleet first, and I think you would make a great first officer. He sort of like asked her to be, what does he say, like interim, essentially, first officer. Even though she isn't acting first officer. Acting first officer.
James Mason.
James Mason here, acting. And so he says, hey, don't rush into it. I know it's you know, it's a lot because Tilly is still technically an ensign. Yeah. She never completed the command training program, never got promoted. However, she has been on this crazy journey and been integral in all these things. And also, we've talked about this a little bit. We've hinted at it, that she's been a better number 1 for Saru in these last few episodes than Michael has, for sure. She's the one that gives him the pep talk after the dinner goes terribly. He's the one that says, you got to tell Admiral Vance when Michael goes AWOL. You know, she's been like killing it as an ensign and also running engineering. I mean, come on, Tilly. You're the bomb. So, Disco jumps to Navarre and they meet President Tarina, who's like, oh, it's an honor to meet you, Michael. However, I will not share the SB-19 inquiry information with you. And if you keep insisting on that, we will not even come to meet you. And Michael's like, but please. And she's like, absolutely not. We will not give you that information. We cannot let it fall into Starfleet's hands. And so Michael, as a graduate of the Vulcan Science Academy, invokes the Tikal Inket. Tikal Inket, a process, a, quote, philosophical process designed to unearth deep truths. Basically forces anyone, the leader of the planet, to assemble a quorum of the great minds, I guess, of the Vulcan Science Institute, now the Navarre Science Institute, and they must hear out someone's theories. Apparently, it goes back all the way to like early advances in on Vulcan. So she does that. She forces Tarina's hand. Tarina has to form a quorum, and she beams up with the quorum members. There are 3 of them from the planet, and we'll get into them later. She also mentions that part of the Tikal Inket is that Michael will have an advocate by her side. There is a word for it, which I didn't write down because it's in Vulcan, and there's so much Vulcan.
There was a lot of Vulcan words, yeah.
It is a member of the Quotable Moments, which those of us who are super nerds and watched all of Picard earlier this year, what's up? Hello. We know the Quotable Moments because they provided us with the character Elnor, who accompanied Picard in his apparently hopeless mission to find Data's daughter and save us from robots from space. Okay, we should do a Picard thing sometime because it's very complicated.
Yeah, we might do this after the season ends.
Yeah,
we could do that. We have time.
Let us know.
Not going anywhere.
Friends and listeners, if you want us to be talking about Picard, because the season ends in January and Steph and I still have much nerding to do.
Oh, yeah. We nerd out all the time.
Okay, so there'll be a sister of the Quotable Moments coming to be Michael's advocate. And who is that sister from the Quotable Moments? I think it deserves a dun-dun-dun.
I was shocked. I was shocked.
Like 4, maybe 3 seconds before it happened. I was like, is this going to be Dr. G? Dr. Gabriel Burnham? Michael's mom?
I was floored.
I was still like, I was still in a liquefied brain moment when it was revealed. It only occurred to me because
the reveal with the
hood, and she was like, "Hey, baby," and they hugged and they cried and everything. And, of course, her mother, Gabrielle Burnham, known lovingly to those of us here at Set Phasers as Dr. G.
Dr. G.
Dr. G. Had fallen in with the co-op Malat when she returned back from the past to the future.
Very, very Michael J. Fox style.
Mm-hmm. It's confusing, and we try not to think about it too hard.
It's heavy.
Okay.
It's heavy, Doc. It's heavy, Doc.
Yes. In the meantime, Saru's hitting it off with Tarina. There, he's giving her a tour of the ship, and she's telling him about the history of Navarre and why they decided to leave the Federation, and so on and so forth. Dr. G mentions to Michael, her daughter, that she seems a bit lost. And, maybe is dealing with some stuff that she's not quite ready to face, and that it's dangerous to be doing that while they're about to walk into a Tikal Kinket. Because as Tarina reminds Michael, one of the main things that people do in the Tikal Kinket is try to undermine or assail the credibility of the person who's called it and who is trying to bring forth this new idea. So, let's run down our 3 quorum members, shall we?
Let's do it.
Yes. First we have Niraj, a Romulan elder. They're like bachelors on the Bachelorette game. Our 3 quorum members. Behind door number 1, Niraj, Romulan elder seeking greater self-governance. Behind door number 2, Vakir, he's a high priest of a sect of Vulcan purists. And behind door number 3, Shira, a Romulo Vulcan. I love that term.
Shira, by the way.
Yes, Shira.
Shira,
a Romulo Vulcan looking for a new path forward for Navarre. Okay.
Who was your pick if you had to go out with one of them?
Yeah. Well, Bachelor number 1, tell me about yourself. I am a Vulcan purist, and I don't think humans deserve to be in... Okay. I could do that. It's a game we could play, but let's get back to business.
I'm trying to remember what we called that. We had that game show
Match
before we
game?
gave it to you.
That's a match game. What was it called? Are you Googling it?
Yes, I am. I'm absolutely Googling it. Oh, TV, come on. It's hosted by Cilla Black.
You can Google that
You can Google that.
if you want to know.
If you want to know, you can Google that.
Blind date.
Blind date.
Yes.
Hello, I'm James Mason. Welcome to a new episode of Blind Date.
Dates.
Blind Date. Yes. So, Tarina, meanwhile, is explaining to Saru what really happened. The Federation had leaned pretty hard on Navarre to come up with this SB-19 project, partially because there was already a dilithium shortage before the burn, and they wanted, after the burn, they kind of were demanding even more from Navarre. And they maybe a few other Federation planets felt this way about Starfleet and the Federation, and so they decided they had to withdraw. And they didn't believe that the information was safe in the hands of Starfleet. Also, they believed that they were the cause, that because they were pressured into doing SB-19 by Starfleet, they had caused the burn. So, the Tikal Kinket begins, and as Michael's making her open argument, Vakir immediately interrupts and says her evidence is not enough, and he wants to end the proceedings right away, before they even begin, essentially. Niraj notes that the burden of thinking that they are the cause of the burn has led to a lot of hardships on Navarre, and Vakir intimates that they already have enough problems with the quote unrest in the provinces that Niraj and Niraj and of course Shira. Why did I have to look at that? In their various provinces. So Vakir is really trying to overtake these proceedings, and he is not happy.
He's not happy. He's just so unimpressed. Yeah. He doesn't even want to entertain even being
total purist, if you catch my drift. And so anyway, Dr. G intervenes and is like, hey, emotions run high. Why don't we rest with our thoughts for a little bit, adjourn for a bit, and we'll come back and resume this. So while that's happening, Tilly actually finds Stamets in engineering, and she talks to him and mentions that she's been offered the position of number 1. And what does Stamets think? Obviously, concerned. And Stamets gives a rather poor answer, which, to be fair, he didn't really get a chance to complete.
Yes.
You know, he was in true Stamets fashion was leading with the bad news, and probably was going to come around to he said it would be extremely weird to be taking orders from her, to have her be his boss.
Yeah. But he did say it with a sort of a smile of like, that would be a little bit weird.
Yeah, I think he was going to absolutely seem like he was going to pivot to, but we all trust you and think you would be great. But then he gets interrupted by Owo, who's like, hey, we need you to be ready for the jump back, so get back on your work. And while he's distracted, Tilly's like, okay, well, I should go anyway. So she leaves, clearly a bit perturbed by Stamets' response. Dr. G and Michael have a conversation while the Tikal car is adjourned, and Dr. G says Michael has to be more truthful with the quorum and more truthful with herself. And Michael says, listen, I may be holding some things back, but you know me, you should vouch for me. You're my mother, and you know what I'm trying to say, what I stand for. And Dr. G responds, well, seeing how Michael has spoken thus far into Tikal Cat, she cannot vouch for Michael. A couple of things to remember about the Coat Milant is that, one, they believe in a sort of radical candor, radical honesty, speaking the truth no matter what. And two, when you have an advocate such as this joined to you, it is because your cause is a lost cause, is a cause that essentially the chances of it succeeding are very, very minimal.
Who is the patron saint of lost causes? There is, that's a genuine thing.
The patron saint of lost causes. I don't know.
Saint Jude.
Saint Jude. Well, yeah.
There you go.
The Sisters of the Coat Milant are the Saint Judes of Vulcan.
There you go.
And, okay, so Tikal Kinket Part 2. Oh, my God. That would be such a cool... Whatever. If I was to become a rapper, I would call myself Tikal Kinket. Is all I have to say about that. So look out for my mixtape, ladies and gentlemen. It begins again, and so Michael takes a different tack. She implores the quorum, please help me figure out what happened with the burn. If it's not your fault, it's important that we hunt down what is the cause of the burn. However, she is thwarted by not only Vakir, but also her mother. Dr. G basically points out, like, look at all the things that Michael has done in insubordination of the Federation. She tells us she is here representing them. She tells us that we can trust them. And yet she started the war with the binary stars by creating a mutiny so that she can handle the Vulcans on her own. And she shows up here to the Tikal Kinket having recently been demoted from her position of number one, having disobeyed a direct order and insubordinately been absent without leave. So why, then, should we trust her? Which leads Michael to counter, okay, yes, I'm human. Oh, her mother says she's human through and through, and indicates that she grew up an orphan and that there's all these things that may lead her to make bad decisions, basically pointing out every flaw and weakness that Michael has. And forces Michael to counter that, yes, we may be flawed, but you've seen that Starfleet has given me a purpose and a family. And though we are flawed, you saw us try to save the galaxy, all the sentient life here. And though we're flawed, we always try to do our best and we come out doing the right thing in the end. Isn't that true? And her mother has to agree to all these points. And then at the end of that, Dr. G turns to the quorum and says, now she speaks the truth.
Tough love.
Yeah, baby. And but also
yeah.
display, radical candor. Having
Radical
Michael,
candor.
these are things Michael's been holding back. She's been very mum, very cagey with almost everyone for the last few
It was
episodes.
just like a sort of rapid fire therapy session in front of everyone.
Yeah, and Michael does later on say, I see where you were trying to do there, but it seemed like a pretty inconvenient time to suddenly do some parenting. Nonetheless, when that becomes clear, I think Michael does win some more support from Shira and Niraj, but Vakir is still not into it. And it actually leads to then infighting amongst the quorum, a sort of fracturing of this delicate balance, this delicate, dare I say it, unification. And so Michael, realizing that just to get this information, even though it would be it's the raison d'etre of her these days. That's right. I said it. She realizes that in order to get the information through the quorum here, through the Tikal Kinket, would be to destroy the unity, the fragile balance of Navarre, and would be to destroy the work and the vision and the life's work of her brother Spock. And so she withdraws her request for the information. She says, I will continue to look on my own, and I will share all the information I get with you, but I will not ask you for this information because it clearly would be harmful to Navarre. It's not worth it to harm your planet just to get this information and save the Federation. That's not what the Federation is about. It's not what Spock would have wanted. And she leaves.
Yep.
She bangs the gong, and she walks out the door. And everyone gets up, and they're like, it was pretty baller move, yeah?
Yeah, and they stand up in support of her and respect for her.
Yes.
It was such a not to get too ahead of myself or ourselves,
Please.
but it
I
was
wish you
such a
would.
well-written episode. It was just so well structured. The story was so good. Massive respect for just the way that it all played out, because it was just like, oh, I didn't know that was coming. I didn't, I didn't know Dr. G was going to turn up. I didn't know Dr. G was going to give her like that tough love. I didn't know the unification was going to be so fragile. And then Michael would say, well, I don't need that data. I'll get it another way. And then they give it to her anyway.
Yeah. Maybe you should do the rundown. That was a pretty perfectly succinct way of describing what it's taken me 10 minutes to talk about. Yeah, so then later Dr. G comes to Michael's quarters and is like, hey, you didn't work with the Tecalcan Cat. However, I said there was another audience there. You impressed President Trina, and here's the SB-19 information. And Dr. D is going to stay on Navarre because she can no longer stay with Michael because Michael's cause is no longer lost. All right. But she says, I have something I can tell you that I've wanted to say for so long. You always know where to find me. And it brought tears to my eyes. I welled up a bit.
Too.
No?
This was quite a snot fest of an episode. I got emotional.
It's not
a few
over
times.
because the penultimate scene, whew, really gonna take you to the I am Spartacus kind of feeling, because Tilly comes to engineering thinking she's been called there by Stamets, only to be confronted by the entire bridge crew. And she's like, oh, you told everyone. And she's like, well, I haven't decided yet. And they all say yes, say yes, say yes. That they all trust her. And even though she may be the most junior officer there, they would follow her anywhere. And they couldn't think of a better number one to have on their crew. And I'll be honest with you, I agree. And therefore, I would like to once again play the Tilly time song. All
right. We can do that for you. Do you want the long one?
Yeah, let's play the long one. Don't be silly. Tilly, space is wide. Space is wide. That's right. However, Tilly, it's your time. Did we unwittingly call this? It is Tilly's time.
It is Tilly's time.
It is Tilly's time to rise. And there is no one more deserving. As we said, she's been an exemplary, unofficial number one to Saru since the season began. And has been holding this crew together when most of them are sort of falling apart under the stress of being displaced 930 years. In any case, Michael shows up late, and she's like, hey, and we need someone to undo this, to figure out this information. And Tilly's like, oh, you're into it too? And she's like, oh, yeah, totally. Did I miss the say yes session? And then they hug, and she was like, I just really wanted your blessing. And Michael's like, you didn't need it. Anyway, beautiful things, lots of tears. I cried. You
Group
cried.
Hug.
If you don't cry,
we all
your
cried.
heart is made of coal. Yes, it was a great thing, and I can't wait to salute Sylvia Tilly as first officer.
Salute and down.
Okay, so 2 more tiny scenes. Saru saying goodbye to Tarina and saying, listen, I know it's preemptive to try and get Navarre back into the Federation. However, I hope our conversations can continue. And Tarina says, I hope so too, in time. And then she says that the crew of the Discovery and Saru himself are not what she expected, and it was a compliment. And then she goes down to the surface. And the final scene is Michael and Book and Grudge on Book's ship, which is still in the shuttle bay. And Michael's like, I have to stay here. This crew's my family. It's where I belong. And Michael says, what does that mean for you, Book? And Book says, I don't know, but he does look meaningfully at Grudge. And that is the episode.
Yeah. You didn't throw your notes?
No, because I have to hold on to them.
No.
Oh, no.
What was that?
Well, because I was going to play the the
Oh,
tinfoil time, but now I hit the wrong note.
Okay.
Well, we're about to go into it.
All right.
So let's discuss some things about the episode.
Is this tinfoil time?
Yes. However, it's going to be weird.
Yeah. We haven't.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. This isn't our.
Here's what I think. Or should it be, the truth is out there? I don't know.
Something like that. We'll get there.
We're working on that one. We're crunching the numbers on that
We'll
one.
make that official soon.
I'm not sure what exactly weird thing to say, so if you have any thoughts on that, please let me know. Okay. So, working in reverse, from the smallest issue to perhaps the greatest. Right now, I'm curious just at that final look at Grudge. That
I
book
didn't think too
gives.
much about that, but
Well, it's not a huge thing, but it's like, why, when she says, what does that mean for you, does he look at his cat?
well, I don't know. Maybe he's just contemplating, well, I can't be with Michael anymore, so maybe it's going to be my cat and me in the galaxy forevermore. No?
She says, I'm going to stay here forever. You feel like home. He says, you feel the same way to me, too. She's like, so what does that mean? He goes, I don't know. I mean, something's going on with Grudge. Remember, Book, sexy, shirtless, light up forehead, space druid Book can talk to animals. So I feel like he can probably talk to Grudge. No?
All right.
I don't know. I feel like that
I feel
might
like you're
be...
looking into this because you've got a cat.
Boo! I was trying to sing my own theme song. But I know it's a little crazy, but I feel like Grudge is mixed up in all of this somehow.
If
Maybe
you want to
she
sing your
caused
own
the
theme
burn.
tune, I'll do some After Effects for the podcast when it comes out.
It's a theory of mine. But it's not super important. Obviously, Tilly is first officer. I think we're all on board for that. That's
Super.
pretty dope.
Yep.
We didn't get any, and this is why I was saying maybe there wasn't so much tinfoil, because we didn't get any information on Giorgio, which I think
Yep.
would be really interesting.
Yep.
And it would have been interesting to see how Dr. G and Giorgio interact in this future.
Indeed.
Two of Michael's three
moms.
moms. She has three moms.
Oh, that's right.
And Amanda.
Yep, and Amanda.
Yeah. Giorgio, Dr. G, and Amanda. Michael has three moms.
Did we didn't see Amanda interact with anyone else, did we? Mom-wise.
No, I don't think she ever even interacted with Giorgio,
No.
if I'm recalling correctly.
I don't recall.
And she definitely wasn't there at ESOF 3 or whatever, where we first met the Red Angel in season 2 and found out that Dr. G was Michael's mom. So, anyway, I think it's going to be very interesting to find out what's going on with Giorgio precisely. And I think
Well-
that might be tied up in all this. Yes? Have you an alert?
I might do.
Incoming transmission. Incoming transmission.
Well, if you're super nerds like I am, and we are, but Aki didn't get time to do this, I occasionally watch The Ready Room, hosted by Will Wheaton. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that, we do get a little throw forward of a scene with Culber and Giorgio, where they're discussing her medical condition and what appears to be a brain disease diminishing thingy.
Oh,
So
no.
we're not sure, and she's not particularly willing to divulge any information about it or how she's been feeling. And Culber's like, well, I can't bloody help you then if you don't give me that stuff. So, and there's sort of a bit of an impasse about it. And that's just the mini scene that we get. So we are going to find out more about Giorgio and her condition in the next episode.
So she's just sick. It has nothing to do with the burn or Grudge.
We're not sure at this point. We don't have enough
think it
information
does. I
to
think it does.
connect those dots.
I think they're connected. This is why I shouldn't have sound effect power.
Yeah, I was going to say that's why I'm in control of the sound effects
Well,
panel.
this is the issue. So we'll see about that. Is all I have to say. And we didn't get any more of the weird melody, lest we forget that the first two episodes we had. No, not the first two. I think episodes 3 and 4. The melody shows up prominently, and it is a question, but it has faded to the background of late.
Indeed, it shall come back.
It has to. Something in SB19 is going to have to do with that melody, right? Something.
Gotta be.
I think it really comes back to Grudge. Grudge the cat.
Right, yes, possibly.
Okay.
And maybe because he's a cat and he can hear higher frequencies or something.
She's a queen,
Sorry, I know.
right? Well, I
Yep.
think she has a plan. I don't know. Whatever. We don't
You
have to
think
go.
the
We don't have to
Grudge
go
has a
all the way
plan?
down into my grudge thoughts.
Your rabbit hole of
Yeah, the
Yeah.
spin-off 24 episode seasons of Grudge the Cat and her adventures. And her sidekick book. Let's see. And I guess the other big thing that I took from this episode was it seemed like they were really laying the groundwork to have to deal with more of the fractured society. Thank you. To have to deal with more of the fractured society on Navarre, right? They don't really go into what it is, but obviously Niraj, who wants more, what do they call it, self-governance, is apparently having to worry about like insurgencies or uprising in his area. And also they come down pretty hard on Shira. She's the Romulo Vulcan. It just rolls off the tongue. It sounds like pasta. We're like, we're starting with a Romulo Vulcan in vodka sauce. Anyway.
with prosciutto on the side if you choose.
An
For extra
antipasto
$5.
Romulo Vulcan. An extra $5. I love it.
Yeah, you know,
Only
it's an
$5?
add-on. Yeah,
All right.
it's prosciutto. For God's
These are
sake.
well. I mean, I mean, it's very expensive to import prosciutto to the States. $5. I mean, it's just.
I
Not,
would say probably 8, but
Yeah.
we're in New York, you know.
Yeah, we're talking $12 for a side
Probably.
of prosciutto. A side of prosciutto, a
Side.
strip
Oh.
of prosciutto would cost you a lot
I'd
of
love
money.
some prosciutto and melon right now.
Yeah, I have a prosciutto hanging in my closet right now that I started.
course. Why wouldn't you?
At the beginning of quarantine, I got a ham hock and I cured it, hung it on a rope.
Anyway,
All right. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if we wind up going back to Navarre and seeing what some of these, especially since these SB-19 may have been involved somehow in the revelations about the burn. It seems like the quorum couldn't even hold it together. There's something else going on there, but maybe that's down the line. Maybe that's a season 4 thing. They're just laying the groundwork.
maybe.
Yeah. And that's all that really. I think those are the major themes of this episode. I didn't see any other hints, but they aren't good. They aren't good at hiding things. As I
Some
said,
Easter eggs in there.
Yeah.
But, you know, and some things that I thought were fun. So we obviously got a flashback of Spock. We got to
Yes.
see some real footage of Spock. And then obviously we were thrown forward to Picard. So it was
Yes.
just a nice intermingling of Treks that we haven't really seen too much of before.
Yes, they're interleavened. Yeah, usually you see it at the beginning or the end of.
Yeah. It's like, this is the thing that starts
a
you, then off you
series.
go.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to see all this sort of be interwoven.
As we've seen, they are unafraid of having something like a character from a totally different franchise take a major role in a season. So, I mean, I don't know what they would do. Nimoy is no longer alive, so there's no old Spock. But
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that there aren't other interesting characters from that era, maybe even played by different actors that might. No, that wouldn't make sense.
Oh, I
'cause
take it
it's-
back. I think
it's
in
not even
TNG
30 years.
they brought Scotty in. I think, and they also did they bring in the? Yeah, no, it's just Scotty.
Yeah, they brought McCoy in. I think on
That's
the
right.
very first episode, just
Was it
showing him the
McCoy?
ship. Yeah, I thought it was McCoy.
Scotty. They did Scotty, and he was trapped in a beam. He was trapped in an energizer beam.
Oh, that was
Transport beam.
that was a different episode.
Was that
yeah.
later? Was McCoy in it?
I think the pilot of TNG, they had McCoy
It's terrible.
walking down the hallway, just saying, "The ship looks nice," or something like that.
Okay, I'll have to look into that.
It's
But
not a
but we
major
get
part
the
of
little- Yes, so it was more like cameos than it was like an actual like plot point.
And this is like deeply steeped. The idea of unification,
Indeed.
which was such a big thing in TNG, is now has come to fruition and also is threatened in season 3 of Star Trek Discovery.
All righty. Shall we move on?
Yes, have you any quotable moments?
Quotable moments. I did have one. I shall
Oh,
have to
great.
bring up my notes.
Bring up your notes.
My notes. It was Dr. G.
Yes.
Dr. G.
Doc G.
Doc G. Duty and joy go hand in hand. Duty is there so you can pursue your happiness, and joy is there so you have something real to fight for.
Well done. That is the only quote I wrote down.
Really?
So I feel like a dummy. I did think I should
you
go back
shouldn't.
and there was a nice quote that Saru had, but I didn't write it down word for word when he's talking to Tarina, because it was kind of like in the middle of a dialogue. But he was basically saying that when she says that, like, how the Federation leaned on Navarre, he says something to the effect of, the greatest challenges or the greatest pain often leads to the greatest lessons, and that Starfleet without Navarre is learning something powerful because it's been so harmed by not having
by the
unity.
loss of
Something
it.
to that effect. Yeah. I don't know.
Good one.
There were some cool moments in this episode, but mostly there were moments like Tilly confronting the bridge crew and them all saying "say yes," and Michael and her mom, and the impassioned speech that Michael gives at the end of the Tikal Kinket. They're all very long. None of them are like quotable,
Yeah.
but I think the basic gist of Michael's final thing was like, it's bigger than one issue. It's bigger than one person. That's what she says. That's what Navarre is about. That's what Starfleet is about. It's about all of us coming together.
There was that discussion about like us moving on from that sort of the needs of the many are greater than the needs of
yes,
the
that was
few.
the
That was
yeah.
that the thing? Yeah.
It was part of that conversation because she says like, we didn't used to say that. Yes, that's right. We're right
like
here,
that.
right here, right now. And and she says we learned how to put I forget what the word she used because it wasn't catechisms or whatever, but she was like statements like that are nice, but you can't always cling to them. So sometimes it is about the needs of the few, and that's what Starfleet apparently was forgetting, that sometimes putting so much pressure on the few will make them want to leave. You marginalize them. A lesson to be learned by all of us.
Slap some reverb on that in
I don't
post.
know. I don't know why I decided
Fix it in post.
Fix it in post. So,
Indeed.
well, I mean, that brings us to the end of our episode. Shall we get on to next time?
Let's do it.
Next time on Set Phasers.
Next time, hold on, my papers. Next time on Set Phasers, we will be going into episode 8 of season 3, entering the home stretch. It is entitled The Sanctuary. Sanctuary! Get excited, everyone, because this is yet another one directed by Frakesy.
Yes.
So I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm sure it's going to be heartwarming. Maybe there'll be pizza. I don't know.
Who knows?
That's another.
I would
Picard-
love it if somebody
Picard
just did
throwback.
that thing, with their leg over a chair.
Oh my goodness! If if someone hopped over a chair at a meeting. Oh man, that would be so ridiculous.
It would be too good
it would be
then.
Giorgio, 'cause she's the only one that's like
Yes, it
badass enough to
would.
do that.
Giorgio.
So anyway, next week we'll be talking about The Sanctuary, and we will be seeing what happens with the crew of the Discovery. Thank you for joining us, and if you enjoy the program, you can catch us every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live, or as a podcast every Monday, wherever podcasts come from.
And we are on Facebook, of course. We're at Set Phasers Podcast, and we're also on Instagram and in all of these places. And don't forget, you can join us to talk about all things Trek, which we do. We share some fun links to things that are shared on the Star Trek universe. If you don't follow them, and I often share some quotable moments and other things.
Moments, yes.
Quotable moments.
And if you would like to support us in our continuing mission to discover what Discovery has in store for us, we'd only be delighted. You can patronize us, we can take it, by going to patreon.com/setphasers.
Well, Aki, we have our monthly Netflix watch party coming up
Oh, it is
soon.
almost December.
Indeed. What say you to doing Unification parts
one
1
and
and 2?
I say it is a capital idea. I shall invite James Mason. Yes, that sounds wonderful.
Wonderful.
So if you go to patreon.com/setphasers and sign up for one of our sort of like our membership levels, you will be invited to our co-watching event, and we will watch Unification parts 1 and 2 together. And I won't shut up about it the whole time because,
That's just what we do.
that's just what we do.
Anyways, that's at patreon.com/setphasers if we forgot to mention it. I don't remember if you did.
I've
Did
said
you,
it a
Greg?
number of
Did
times,
you?
but it
Oh,
can't
yeah.
hurt.
There we go.
Patreon.com/setphasers.
Oh, anyway, until next time, I'm Steph Mans.
And I'm Aki Burmese, and this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer. End program. Oh, I forgot to push the button again!
Ah!